Done is better than perfect. A quote that stuck with me ever since I first read it. The concept always made sense to me. It's better to produce something imperfect than nothing at all. But it's easier said than done, especially when whatever it is you're procrastinating on creating is a personal project that no one forces you to do. It's tempting to make excuses, to quickly interrupt or postpone the execution of your ideas to a distant point in the future when you'll have it figured out. A point that is so far out of reach that you conveniently throw your plans overboard as time passes and move on to other, better ideas that will probably never see the light of the day either. The original title of this video was Start Before You're Ready, which I remembered later was also the title of my first blog post in 2019. But halfway into the script, I realized that starting isn't usually my problem, at least not anymore. In fact, I start projects all the time. I just have a hard time following through. I've had dozens of vague novel ideas over the years that didn't make it past a few hundred words. Ideas about TikTok series that I quickly dropped, and more random business ideas that I can recall. I'm not saying it's realistic or even aspirational to execute every single idea that pops into your head. For example, why the hell did I think I should create and sell contemporary digital art on Etsy when my taste in interior design is pretty old-fashioned? Truthfully, I was unemployed at the time and only got the idea from searching what's trending on Pinterest. In my defense, creating the pieces was fun, but as soon as I struggled to set up my Etsy shop because of technical difficulties, I turned my back on it. Frustrated and defeated. I don't regret giving up on this particular idea because I know it wasn't really my thing, but that's not the point here. The point is that I wasn't committed enough to solve the first problem I encountered. Of course, I didn't abandon all of the projects I've ever set my heart on. In some regards, I'm actually good at keeping my word to myself, especially when it comes to sports. For example, I was very consistent about training for my first half marathon this year. But generally speaking, my pattern of quitting is still pretty obvious, especially when it comes to creative endeavors, which is ironic because creative expression has always been important to me, even as a kid. So what's holding me back? I did a little soul searching and this is what I found. First, the fear of being disappointed by the results I produce. And second, the fear of being rejected or maybe even worse, ignored by others, and a subsequent feeling of embarrassment. I know I'm not alone with this, and I also don't believe these fears are totally invalid. But if you break them down, they aren't that deep either. The fear of disappointing myself by taking my creativity seriously has a flip side. Because even if what I create doesn't quite live up to my expectations, I know I'd disappoint myself more if I didn't act on my creative impulses at all. As for the fear of embarrassing myself, I guess I just have to get over it, just like I did countless times before. In the end, I'd rather be cringed in someone else's mind than creatively stifled. The thought that helps me in a weird way is knowing that everyone I know, including myself, will be dead in 100 years. And everything I ever did will be eventually forgotten. But to get to the cut, after half-heartedly deciding to do YouTube many times before and always getting caught up in the logistics, declaring to myself time and time again that I don't have it in me to create long-form content, going through phases of posting and deleting dozens of shorts, I'm now starting fresh. And this time, I'm in for the long run. Simultaneously, I'm also starting Substack. So I don't have enough video material will never be an excuse for not publishing my writing. Expect tales of a mildly confused yet determined 20-something, ranging from topics like reclaiming my creativity and figuring out what kind of life I want to live, over conscious consumption to the occasional travel story. If that resonates, I'd like to take you along with me.